Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to D&D BETCHES! I think you can roll stronger than that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to D&D BETCHES! As you are painfully aware, this is part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. There are guides in the lobby. Pick one on your way out. At this time, please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices. There is no recording, videography, or flash photography of any kind during this performance unless you are the authorized person sitting in the back row. Ignore that. Thank you so much for supporting live theater. Enjoy the show.
Perception checks, a player stealth check, a deception check. Check! Late. Sorry, Gina, I got caught up in the swiping.
None. Well, if you would just use your real face and body, Whitney, maybe you could go on a date.
Oh, yeah. Good idea, Vorpahl. Then my coworkers might find out what I actually look like, and then I would never be respected because nobody respects a sexy engineer.
No, you must be professional at all times. Them's the rules. She's not wrong.
Okay, all you have to do is ask out that barista.
Oh, Eugene.
Sometimes I just want to wear a short skirt and I want to take him to a club for fucking.
Speaking of mind-bogglingly raging suppression, I also am sorry that I'm tardy. I had to sneak out and go the long way because the gang was outside my apartment again.
The gang of Girl Scouts?
Those 6-year-olds go right for the throat.
Amen.
Yes. I just wish I did something about them.
Well, you can't let them take advantage of you.
Okay, well, yeah, but today was better when those suburban kryptonite pushers came to the front door. I watched them through the window until they disappeared from my front doorstep and then snuck out. Normally when they knock, I just disappear under my coffee table. What?
I mean, that's something, okay?
Yeah, and this week at work when my boss said that, like, he just took my idea again, I kept my head very still and didn't say anything because normally I just nod profusely and say, what a good idea that is.
Oh, that is an improvement.
Yeah. He just talks so much, I just want to stab him in the voice box.
You should trade your yoga classes for fencing.
I would, except I don't have that kind of money. And I just got a rejection letter from the LA Small Businesses Grant for my real-life spell casting idea. Whereas my boss gets funding from his parents and his Harvard friends. Ah! But I am above rage, so.
Hey, you know what they say. Vengeance is a lazy form of frustration.
Vengeance is an understandable form of frustration. Listen, if there's anybody who understands frustration,
It's you. Okay, ladies, all we have to do is play by the rules and we will be rewarded. Oh my god, okay, this is my boss. I've been waiting for this call all day. Okay. Hello, Stan. Yes, no, I know you were really busy earlier. Thank you so much for calling me. No, thank you. Yes, no. I see. Yes. No, next year. Okay. Bye-bye.
little baby.
He doesn't see me as leadership. I'm a rock solid number 2.
Like poop.
You have been number freaking 2 since middle school.
Oh, yeah, the vice president of the senior class, doing all the work for the president, I might add.
Yeah, secretary of the comic book club, JV for track, runner-up of most likely to succeed.
I saved them so much money. Okay, holy moly, why am I not running this place? Do you know that I accidentally saw my boss's computer the other day? I was shocked.
What kind of porn?
To see everyone's pay. Okay, I make less than half of what my male coworkers make. It is so uneven.
Okay, all you gotta do is gotta heave your monitor up, to throw it down, set your desk on fire, and then rage quit. Allow that aggression that's tapped inside of you to be unleashed like a torrent of fury.
You know what, then I remember the economy. And then I'm very lucky to have a paycheck, and that I needed no braces, and that health insurance.
I wish that I could just be my D&D character.
I just want to rage.
I just want to be sexy.
I just want to be rewarded for my hard work.
Well,
No, it's fine, because you know what? One day, we will be rewarded. We will all be rewarded, we just have to keep playing by the rules.
well, you have got the stamina down. You have a crazy amount of stamina, girl.
You have the resilience.
I know, and most importantly, I have new dice! I just have to say a little thank you. Which one of you was it?
It wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me either, but they are mesmerizing, though.
That's so weird. They came in an envelope and everything.
They've got that funky pattern.
Yeah, maybe they're from, like, a gift from, like, one of the fan clubs that you're in.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, we begin.
Ooh, so what are we going to do in this campaign?
The same thing we do every campaign, ladies.
Try to take over the world. You know, we do that every time we play D&D, so I don't know, why don't we mix it up a bit and get some homebrew original rules up in here?
And diverge from the book.
Well, how about we specialize? It is D&D's 50th birthday, after all.
Happy birthday, D&D! Okay, good point. Okay, how about we try to get all of the money in the world?
Really? Totally
Yeah,
feasible.
All right, just take your magical dice and make your characters, because tonight, ladies, we give them money.
Ooh, okay. I want charisma, dashing, I want daring, and insatiable. Thirst drives me. I'm gonna be a fairy warlock. Yeah.
Okay, I want strength. I'm aggressive, savage, I can fly into a rage. Y'all, I'm an orc barbarian.
Okay, and obviously one of my NPCs is going to have intelligence. And, I don't know, maybe some kind of rogue. Yeah. All right, let's start. Campaign to win all of the money in the world. Find yourselves in a dull tavern. The lights slowly flicker.
That's weird.
Oh, production value.
Rumbling beneath your feet.
Oh, do you feel that? I actually think I feel some.
Yeah, we live in LA. It comes with the territory.
boss too, even though you might not want to, but we're gonna, yeah! Yeah!
That does sound like you.
Hey! Okay, what if you're a turtle because slow and steady wins the race?
Oh. Oh, okay. Winning. It's a little slow.
Welcome. My name is the Rules of the World.
The rules of the world?
The Rules of the World. Tonight I am your dungeon master.
That was supposed to be my role.
Hush, you're a turtle. Congratulations, you rolled a lucky roll with those lucky dice, and for one night only, you are in your D&D game.
Oh, holy moly!
Oh, that's a dream come true. Okay, that's fine, but I was supposed to DM.
Well, now, Shelled One, you're a player. Now, what is it you wish to accomplish in this game?
Well, Miss Rules, love your boots, by the way.
Thank you. I killed a drow priestess for these.
Fair. Impressive. Hot. We would like to win all of the money in the world.
All the money in the world. Oppressive, adorable. All the money in the world, an impossible adventure. Reminds me of myself once upon a time. And you plan to do that how?
Personally, I'd like to kill everyone.
And I'd like to seduce them. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna rock them with my intelligence.
That's right. Intelligence, okay. If you think that's enough, let's begin.
Oh! We finally get to do everything we've always wanted to do.
Slay.
Murder.
Steal.
Kill.
Okay, whoa. Do we not want to consider the ramifications of this magical spell? I mean, where the heck are we? And what were those dice?
It's not the dice you're given, it's how you play the roles you get. But yeah, in this case, it was the dice you were given. Those are die of the realm.
Die of the realm?
Yes, usually you die in the realm.
What?
You heard my joke, but don't worry, the dying is up to you. If you get your goal, all of the money in the world, then you get to go back.
Whew, okay. Thank God I have a 9 a.m. morning meeting.
And if you survive all the monsters.
Monsters?
It's like you've never played D&D before. We begin at the waterfall, at the base of a snow-topped mountain. Its peaks reaching towards the sky. It's high as a kite, and twice as perilous. You see the money is at the top. There is a steep path towards it. What do you do?
I would like to roll a perception check, please.
A 10 out of 20. It's always out of 20 for any poor unnerdy souls out there who have never played D&D before. Get cool, geeks roll. You see nothing, but you hear a glug, 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 glug.
Glug, glug. Maybe the waterfall is plugged up?
Oh, come on, Whitney. Not everything has to be plugged up.
Hey, but it could be plugged up.
The glugging gets louder and louder. An enemy approaches.
Glug, 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 glug. It is I, a gelatinous cube.
Cube of transparent gelatinous ooze stands before you, its body composed of a corrosive jelly-like substance.
I am a jelly-like substance.
Blocking the ascent to the money. What do you do?
Oh, I think that this is the coolest enemy in the frickin' book. I am feeling emboldened. I would like to seduce it. Yeah.
You approach the gelatinous cube.
Hey there, gelatinous cube. sir?
You know, I've always wondered what life would be like if I was shaped by a whiskey ball. If I was a sphere. Oh, I'd probably feel like I'd have a lot less control, you know, but I'd probably go on way more adventures, rolling up and down the soothing dragon spike mountains.
Ooh, I would be so supportive if you rolling up and down.
You roll a 3.
Ow! Whitney!
Yes, the gelatinous cube digests everything in its path. Whitney takes 10 acid damage and is engulfed.
Ow!
Gina, you're up.
Do not worry. I have thought about this so much. Baking soda.
Baking soda.
Yeah. The gelatinous cube has a highly acidic properties, so all we have to do is cut it with a base. Baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, is going to foam up with carbon dioxide gas, killing the cube.
Okay, roll for baking soda.
Oh my god, it's working!
Ooh, a natural 1. You threw 1 teaspoon of baking soda.
Ow, you pricked my finger. You jerk, I don't even have one. It means it must have really hurt. Really hurt my feelings.
My friends! My enemy.
Gina is engulfed by the gelatinous cube, also taking 10 acid damage. The cube restrains Whitney and Gina. They cannot breathe. Their skin starts to deteriorate, being slowly digested in a torturous manner.
Vengeance shall be mine!
What is your action?
I charge the evil, slimy, hideous,
Hey, whoa! I didn't ask to be born this way.
absurdist gelatinous cube, waving my massive sharp sword, cutting away at the edges, and avoiding chopping my friends. I am enraged.
Roll for
I go John Wick on his ass!
yes! Roll for attack! A natural 20!
My side! Oh, that actually hurt. Oh my gosh. I'm not no longer a cube. I'm melting. I'm turning into 1,000 wiggly squares. Oh, Jello. Melt.
Oh my god!
Gelatinous cube melted my clothes.
Oh my god!
I've always wanted to kill a cube, so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As a bonus, inside the cube, you have found a belt of dwarven kind.
Oh, that was the belt!
You're beast mode now, girl!
Oh my god. I think the legendary resilience of a dwarf. 2 bonus points to your constitution. Oh, and you get dark vision.
And a 50% chance of growing a full beard each day. Congratulations!
Those are all equally impressive traits.
Where are we?
You move on up the path, higher and higher. You pass puffy, white cloud castles. You notice the air is getting thin. A winged kobold flies in the distance.
Oh god, I keep my eyes peeled for mighty giants.
Or avian predators like hippogriffs.
Miss Rules, do I sense something? I'm pretty sure I sense something not of this world. My warlock willies are twitching.
A twitchin' or a witchin', there's certainly not a glitchin'.
Bitchin'.
You are correct, Warlock. An attractive smell permeates the air. A soft breeze makes you ever so gently touch your neck, your hair.
This is nice.
I like this part of the mountain.
Yeah, okay. For someone who's very terrified they're not going to make it home, this is somewhat pleasant.
Out of a cave dashes a dashing incubus.
shape-shifting fiend that charms you into doing whatever it says.
Hey.
Oh, Gina, it's capturing your mind.
Yes, an incubus has high deception and persuasion. What do you do?
Oh, I try to reason with it.
Oh dear.
Hey, Incubus. Mr. Incubus.
Oh, Mister. Just a heads up, I also use they, them pronouns.
No, it's just like my fanfic. Fuck. Okay. So I think that you should let us pass. And I think you'd just be doing a really good thing if you just kind of let us have the money.
You know what? You're right. Would you like to seal the deal with a consent-approved kiss?
No! It's the deadly kiss, no! Yes. Oh my god, yes I would. My mind. It's empty.
Without Gina even taking any action, the incubus delivers a deadly kiss, a classic move that is an echo of the emptiness of their corrupted soul. The target has never been easier. Gina takes 32 points of psychic damage.
Here's a sponge. Do some busy work.
I love busy work.
Next up, Vorpahl, you might try trying something.
Well, yeah, okay, I rage at the treatment of my friend.
The barbarian rages. 5 extra strength points.
I'm so mad.
She's so mad. She's so mad the belt of dwarven kind makes her grow a beard.
What? I grow a beard? That's so weird. It's so surprising, but so sweet. Awesome. Well, yeah, I do. So I raise my sword to slice its head off.
Vorpahl swings her sword, but ooh, she rolls a 5. Unfortunately, the incubus uses their mighty wings to fly away.
You can't catch me!
And hits Vorpahl with the charm spell.
Bam! And I claw her sword away.
They claw her sword away, dealing 6 slashing damage.
No!
And Vorpahl is telepathically under their spell.
No!
Here, scrub these numbers for me.
I love scrubbing numbers.
Good. Make it look like I know how to handle a big, thick budget.
We love busy work. They think they can just go around making people fall in love with them?
How dare they?
When I'm probably better at it? Why can't I do that?
And maybe you can.
You think you're so charming, incubus? Charming enough to take my friends when you're not as charming as me, bitch!
What is your action?
Whoa, I'm gonna out-seduce it!
These shocking words of self-belief knock Gina and Vorpahl out of their spell long enough to say,
Wait, what? That's crazy talk.
right. So, Whitney approaches the incubus.
Hey there, Inky.
Inky? A pet name so soon, my pet?
I'm not your pet. You wish you were my pet.
I don't.
You do.
I don't.
You do.
I don't.
I do a mind-blowing dance. I hit it with a witch bolt.
19! A beam of crackling blue energy shoots out of Whitney's hand. An arc of lightning hits the incubus.
Be still, my beating heart.
You are a supernatural being, incubus. You do not have a heartbeat.
But it aches for her.
Die! No, wait, become my familiar.
Fascinating. Instead of killing it, she makes a bold choice. A familiar is a creature that is magically bonded to a spellcaster. In this case, to a Whitney. Incubus, do you promise to act in Whitney's service?
I will act in Whitney's service.
And obey her every command?
I will obey her every command.
As my familiar, I promise that you will act independently and roll your own initiative.
I will act independently and roll my own initiative.
Congratulations! The incubus becomes Whitney's familiar!
I will build you a sex dungeon.
Make it nice. It is to be my home.
That's fair. You shall have ample closet space.
And you will also manage my dating profiles?
You will have the best matches at the most well-researched locations.
Rock, dude! Get out of here.
I love you.
I love you too.
Whitney, you had the choice to kill them, but you chose to make them your allies. You're winning D&D!
Yeah, that's not in the playbook. But yeah, that's not that. That's out of the ordinary.
Ooh, I'm no ordinary girl.
Okay. Well, we run up the stairs and we get the money.
No. At this point on your journey, you are on a glacier of slippery ice.
Oh gosh. Why can't we get there faster?
Because I am the rules, and this is the world.
Okay, but there's just gonna be more monsters and more slippery ice.
Yes, it's called Dungeons and Dragons.
I know.
Where obstacles are thrown at you and you rise to the challenge.
Okay, but I always rise to the occasion.
Well, Speedy, do you want to keep doing the same things that you've always been doing?
No, I'm gonna use Mage Hand and my second story work ability to lower the money and then grab it.
A 6. The money lowers. Does lower.
Oh my god.
Lower, but you don't succeed at separating it from the rope. And what's that sound? A mind flayer lich approaches!
Okay.
What is on the menu for today? Brains, I hope. Ooh, brain salad, brain tapenade, escargot brain, truffle brain and cheese, brain smear toast, to top it off with a nice brain sundae.
It creeps closer. What do you do?
I hit it with the temporal rift.
That's not a bonus action your rogue class can usually take.
Well, I do it, and I send it to another dimension.
Okay. You raise a pointed hand at the mind flayer and loose a glowing orb of turquoise. And it causes the very land around you to warble uncontrollably as it shifts through time and space. A 1.
Okay.
Instead of sending the mind flayer lich to another dimension, you cause a giant temporal rift that sucks you and your friends to another time and place.
Where are we?
Welcome to the land of opportunity.
Yeah! Yes!
Just kidding. Welcome to the land of fuck you.
Wait, what?
Tough roll. It's the 17th century. Human world.
No! This is because I took an action I shouldn't have taken.
No. It would be very ironic to be tied to the normal rules of the world.
Yeah, this is supposed to be our dream scenario.
Ooh, looks like you can't own property till 1900. Can't get a credit card till 1974. Oh, unless any of you are married, you could use your husband's signatures.
God! I should have fucked that barista!
I should have stolen more swords.
No, we should have played by the rules.
No, that's silly. This is a creative game.
Yeah, and look where it's gotten us.
Well, we're miles closer than when we started, Gina.
Yeah, and now we're in trouble. And how are we gonna get the money?
Don't worry, I brought you into this world and I can take you out of that world. Not this one.
What?
Gina caused a giant temporal hole in the universe. Even I can't help. Only the money can transport you and you can't get the money.
Okay, so we can't go home? I am an engineer, a sexy one, by the way.
This makes me want to kill someone!
Oh, no, you definitely can't do that. You'd very much go to jail. That's very against the rules. And I don't think you want to go to these old jails, soiled, dark, rife with disease. Definitely puts the dungeon in Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, okay, well then I use my warlock spells to enchant the members of this world.
Oh, no, you can't do that. If you try to use magic, people will think you're a witch. You're gonna be burned, expelled from the land.
Oh, God.
Okay, how are we gonna do this? Okay, we can't kill anyone.
Ridiculous.
And we can't seduce our way to power.
Unleash me.
And my intelligence doesn't even matter.
I wish it did.
Okay, how are we gonna do this? This is so impossible. We can't do anything. We should have stayed. We should have followed the rules. You went outside the box.
I mean, we all did.
Yeah, and now we're paying for it. We are so screwed, and there's no way that we can get the money. Okay, this is so bad. Help me. We can't do this. We should have stayed by the rules, and we should have done it. And this is all my fault.
No.
Oh God, what are we gonna do?
Well,
I'm too, Whitney. The Mindfire Lich.
Oh, I have been waiting in a long line for that one. Like a springtime specialty coconut cronut on an opening day of a crowded mall. 2-for-1 special.
I thought I'd like that, but I didn't.
Whitney? Vorpahl?
Huh?
Oh.
What's this? Raise the charm? A triple scoop of brains with a cherry on top?
the Mind Flayer Lich reaches out one long, slimy tentacle in an effort to extract brain, to take out and devour Gina's brain.
I dodged!
10! You roll away successfully!
I use a tentacle attack.
The Mind Flayer flails its tentacles about in hopes of paralyzing you.
I run away and I try to claw it with my long claws!
8! You successfully escape, but do no damage to the talons.
I do a saving throw.
Oh! The Mind Flayer magically emits a 60-foot cone of psychic energy, changing all of the air into water.
I shall use my mind blast.
I'm withdrawing to my shell! No one's home. My friend's brains are being eaten. I can never go home. I'm about to be killed by Mind Flayer, and the money to transport us home is so far beyond I can never reach it. It's all my fault.
Look, Turtle, you literally carry the weight of the world on your back.
It's true.
Lucky you found your shelter gives you a special sense of security because you, Gina, need security.
I do.
But it is so heavy.
It's so heavy.
Do you want to keep carrying it?
I've always followed the rules, and I've never gotten what I wanted.
Well, do you think you'll get what you want if you keep doing that? Look, Turtle, I used to follow the rules too. I was an excellent Girl Scout and a safety patrol. Even the cost vice president doing all the work for the president.
What? Same.
decided that this game was stacked against me. I had less attribute points than everyone else. Less of everything. And I was tired of being treated unfairly. So, I'm not proud of it, but I went against the rules. I took an extra saving throw.
You did it.
I did.
But you couldn't.
Turns out I could.
How? You're not allowed.
I know! I was stopped, caught, and I was shamed. The powers that be made an example of me. Even though I had less attribute points, I didn't deserve extra actions. The aboleth was about to execute me and decided to give me one last chance to belong. He tethered my soul to the rules. And that's how I became the rules of the world.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I became so rigid, I don't even like myself anymore. I wish someone could change me, but I'm stuck. You, on the other hand, have something special. A natural zest and endurance. You're still alive. Remember, your naturally high constitution.
I do have a high constitution.
Constitution means you have stamina, endurance, resilience. Turtles can hold their breath for up to an hour.
I can hold my breath for up to an hour. But while I'm in my shell,
Your speed is 0. You have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Your only action is...
oh, I emerged from my shell!
Gina emerges from her shell, getting +4 to her armor class!
I hold my breath and I dive into the cone of psychic energy and swim towards the mind flayer! I slice off 6 of its tentacles!
Here we go. A natural 20! Gina slices off 6 of its tentacles!
Oh, and then I use my fast hands cunning action to sever his link to Whitney and to Vorpahl.
Whitney and Vorpahl are freed!
God, did I die?
Whoever snuck up on me is toast!
I do another saving throw.
Success! The mind flayer grows 2 tentacles back.
Well, I range and slice off as many tentacles as I can!
Yeah, and I do an Eldritch Blast with a charisma modifier to very sexily hit that.
The mind flayer is frozen, tentacleless.
Oh shit.
Critical hit! He's dead!
I use a soul knife to tear through the fabric of reality, cutting through psychic and physical barriers to send us back to the right world and close the gap behind us.
You can't do that. But you can kill me, so you can.
Wait, really? Has anybody ever done that before?
I can't.
You can.
I won't.
You will.
I will not.
Gina, if anyone can change me, it's you.
My constitution, my perseverance is the most elemental skill that humans have used to survive. Whitney, Vorpahl, I have been such a jerk, and I'm so sorry that I didn't believe you. It is time that we do things differently. The rules of the world has told us what we can do. So it's only fair that we change her. Because together, we can rewrite the rules. I say we homebrew this bitch! And the shoes and the tameness with which we approach life.
Yeah.
With which that I approach life.
Right.
And if we are the only players that ever see or hear our actions, it's gonna be well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's our story that we have been dictating and playing the whole time.
All our D&D campaign.
I hit you with a change spell.
Oh my God. Are there no rules? Because if there's no rules, I have so many questions. Where do we go?
Well, why is the money still suspended?
You freed me! I've been waiting for years for my makeover. Like the concealer who went to therapy, I've had a lot of baggage to cover up. Here you go. You've earned it.
Really?
Yes.
We have done enough! We are enough.
Yeah, enough of this sap. How are we getting back? Oh.
The bag will magic you back with the homeward bound spell.
Awesome. I love you guys so much. Hey, wait, can I close the gap behind us?
You can do anything you want.
Haven't you learned anything? Well, I learned that I can channel my rage, and that the old guard with their money networks and old ways of thinking to keep us down will eventually die out. And if they take their time about it, I can help them along the way.
Wonderful lesson.
To hell.
We approve this message.
I have learned that I can out-seduce a non-binary incubus and have them build me whatever I want. In this case, a sex dungeon. For fucking!
There's a Netflix special on that.
And I learned that there is no one right way to succeed as a woman. Okay, we can do it however we want. Oh,
Let's go home.
kiss me, everyone kiss me.
All right, this is disgusting. What is this, ABC?
Disney Junior.
And with that vomit-inducing sweetness, you have changed me, freed me, and I thank you for delivering me to the celestial plane. Farewell.
Where'd those dice come from?
We get to keep our outfits! Oh, I get to keep my familiar!
Oh, I grew new horns. The other ones broke backstage.
Aw, dang! We didn't get to keep the money. Gosh. That was freaking weird. That was so wild. I think we leveled up.
Yeah, I think we won.
I think I was just born.
You have a dating profile to make.
Oh, hand me that magic tool. Oh, wow. This is more powerful than the amulet of the curse of Strahd and the sun sword of Epic combined.
Oh, I guess we do have some magic.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm going on a date! Oh!
And I'm gonna join a fencing gym.
Hey, that's a great way to get out your aggression.
This earthquake really fucked
I
me.
know.
Speaking of flipping tables, I'm gonna do that the next time my boss tries to take one of my ideas.
Yeah. Ooh, any additional comments for your Starbucks order? Yes! Side of Eugene, please. Extra whipped. I gotta go. Where the fuck are my glasses?
I'm gonna try to switch jobs diagonally and get a better pay raise.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, we deserve this.
Wait, so do we just live happily ever after? Is this real life?
Always like this.
Yeah.
Kinda is now, though.
Oh, those are my dice! Oh, those are my dice. Look at that. How did these get here?
What?
with you. If you enjoyed the fabulous talent of all of these hireable actors, you can find their information in our digital program. Also, please write a review. You will get an email reminding you in about 5 minutes. As with most theater, we operate at a deficit, so if you super like the show and you're able to, there's a QR code in the back or there's a link in your program. Please, we'd love your donations. Now, join us for drinks at St. Felix. It's a great bar about a mile away, and if you say you came to see our show, D&D BETCHES, you get 15% off. We're all going. We'd love to hang out with you. And finally, as you exit, please enjoy the vocal stylings of our very own Amy Vorpahl's original song,